This is Bilal Randeree, and I'm at the Aljazeera forum with Dr. Abdulkhaleq Abdulla, who's a professor in the UAE. Could you just give me a brief introduction to yourself?
This is Abdulkhaleq Abdulla. I am a professor of political science at Emirates University.
We were briefly chatting about the revolutions that we've seen in the Middle East, starting in Tunisia, Egypt, Libya. And there have been protests in the Gulf, mainly in Bahrain and Oman. But in general, can you speak a bit about Gulf states and whether we're likely or not to see any further public uprisings or protests of any sort?
Well, we have already seen the inspirational forces in the Gulf, inspirational forces of the revolutions and the changes that have taken place in Egypt and in Tunisia. People here are part and parcel of the Arab world. The Gulf is geographically, culturally, every which way you think about it, is part of an Arab world. So we cannot separate ourselves from what's going on around us. And no matter how much we speak of Gulf exceptionality, the changes, windows of changes have already taken roots in the Gulf. We have seen it in Bahrain, we have seen it in Oman, we have seen it probably in Saudi Arabia. It has taken different modalities, but the changes have arrived in here. We don't have to replicate Egypt, we don't have to replicate Tunisia, but I think there is plenty of room for reform, specifically political reform in the Gulf, and people are not calling for down with the regime, but I think everybody probably would support a banner saying reform, political reform in the Gulf.
But for example, in a place like Qatar, where this week at least the British Foreign Office has warned British citizens to be aware of a protest that may happen in the coming Tuesday and Wednesday. But most people in Qatar that I've spoken to dismiss this as something that is very unlikely to happen, just because the perception, at least for people living in Qatar, is that there's little chance of people uprising or protesting just because they have maybe because they have nothing to protest about.
Well, we should not be dismissive of anything. We have been in for surprises for the past 90 days. Every single day of the past 90 days has brought a surprise of a sort. So we might be in for a surprise in Qatar, we might be in for a surprise in UAE, we might be surprised at the turn of the corner at any time, any day throughout this period. I think there is a revolutionary mood, and it is engulfing everybody, including Qatar, including everybody else. But I don't think, at this moment we will see anything of the magnitude of what we have seen in Egypt or in Tunisia. I think if anything takes place here, it has to be catered to the specificity, to the conditions in Qatar, in UAE, in Bahrain, and everywhere else. So, we should not be dismissive of anything at this moment.
Thanks so much. We look forward to speaking to you over the rest of the forum, and this interview should be available on our website, which is english.aljazeera.net.